I've been patiently waiting for the last speaker for the day, and so have you. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I've been inspired this afternoon, and I want to thank those who organized TEDx and for inviting and including me. And also, I'm so proud to be part of a community that's caring and connected in Red Deer. About 5 years ago, I was standing right at this gate with Gord Bonji and his daughter and a couple of people from Lacombe, the Kennedys. I was standing there and I had a sense of happiness and a sense of satisfaction that Central Albertans had reached beyond the borders and boundaries of their town and their country. I was seeing children walking from their dormitory to the classroom. These were no ordinary children. They were disabled children, at one time crawling, but now being able to walk a little better, maybe not as normal, over to the school right across the road. But I was not quite ready to see this scene. There were girls crawling to go to school from the dormitory to the classroom across the road from the gate where I was standing. Also that day were with me two others from Red Deer. One was, both of them were welders, John Medag and Bob Moore. They asked me what had happened, and I told them that these girls were too old by the time we found them, and the surgery would not work, so they had to spend the rest of their lives crawling. John and Bob replied that we are not doctors, we are not physiotherapists, but we can do the one thing we could. They were welders. They built a beautiful wheelchair factory so these children did not have to crawl, but were able to ride. This taught me an important lesson. They connected, they saw the need, and did the one thing they could. As I was seeing these girls struggling to get to school, I was reminded of another girl by the name Florence. Florence was also struggling to go to school. She was born to a family of 9 girls, and she did not have an opportunity to go to school. She was not able to get an education because her parents were not able to afford schooling for her. Arriving in her village were two young people from Canadian University College from Lacombe in 1947, 11 years before I was born. They found my mother and gave her a chance to go to school, which brought me to Canada, and believe it or not, I live in Lacombe and attended the same university college in Lacombe. Connections of the past can have a significant impact on your own life. But I also needed to be connected. And that happened to me on one of my trips when I went to see a project that A Better World had started, and when I met Ken Hill. Ken Hill was a physiotherapist, taught physiotherapy, and had volunteered his time to go and help in one of our projects. So I went to see him. And when I went over there, my life was transformed. It's not so much what he did, it was very important, but how he did it. There were hundreds of children that would come to him and say 3 words, I want walk, I want walk, I want walk. And as I saw him touch the children with his bare hand, they had walked through mud, through rocks, through bushes. Some had blisters, some were bleeding, but he would take his bare hands and touch those children. He would twist their feet to show me what could be done for $50 or $100. That image was so etched in my mind that I said, I want to make a difference in the world. I wanted others to experience what it would be like to connect, to see, and to do the one thing they could. The $5,000 that we invested with a few of us now has taken over 2,000 volunteers from Alberta and across Canada to other places, 25 permanent volunteers. We try to do 100% of our project money always goes to the project in 14 countries, and our community has been generous enough to raise $23 million since the time we started. Why and how is what I want to talk to you a little bit today. Connections of the past. Because I'm in business and I have a business, I started thinking differently about charity and investment. Charity might be just giving. Investment involves measuring the returns, making sure there are results, and that there were lasting solutions. Two unlikely things to be connected, charity and investment. I want to give you two examples of what I mean by charity versus investment. This is a school in Kenya, one of the first projects, early projects that we did, a school for about 165 students in these 3 classrooms. The principal came to me and said, we need a classroom, and it was obvious. And we asked him what is the one thing they were willing to do, because they too had connected to their own needs and saw what their children needed. And the principal said the children would bring a rock to school every day over 3 months. You can see the pile of rocks. And he said the parents would come, sit down, and break them into smaller pieces to make gravel so they can make a foundation. They would come there and sit in the hot sun and start breaking those rocks into pieces. But back home in Canada, you may not be able to read this sign. You can see the transformed school, the investment and understanding what it could do. Were 2 schools. There were others, Lindsay Thurber School and the Lacombe Composite School students. They raised the money, the one thing they could do, and we were able to invest and transform this school. One more example. I was visiting this orphanage, and there was a big plot of land. And the director came to me. He had started this orphanage with 4 children, and there were 200 of them by the time we were introduced to him. And he came to me and said, I have seen those ads in your country where on Sunday mornings for $25 a month, you can feed the children. I'm sure some of you are engaged in that. It's a good thing for the most part. Give you a credit card and the $25 is taken and somebody promises to feed the children. Well, I tell my wife, if we can raise a child for $25, I'll send my children over there too. But the point is how many growing seasons do we have in Canada? 1, if we are lucky. How many growing seasons are there in most of the developing world? I come from one, so I know. Year-round. So why is it that people in this third world developing countries look to us for food? Our children should be on TV on Sunday mornings asking for $25 a month because we cannot grow any food. When I see the snow, I wonder where my groceries are going to come from. The idea is to invest. So we talked to the man, and within 6 months, the same plot of land turned into this. And the results are happy, healthy children with dignity eating their own food. If you're giving to causes, you need to hold us accountable for investment, for measurable results, and lasting solutions. How about the connections to the future? You saw a little bit about the past, saw the present, how to look at giving. I want to talk to you a little bit about connections to the future. 2 years ago, a young girl, 23 years old, walked into my office in my computer business. And I didn't know her, and she said she didn't know me that much either, had heard of me. And she said during her school years, she was inspired to make a difference in the world. She told me her story. At 13 years of age, she had to run away from home to get an education because her parents did not believe that she could ever amount to something and did not really believe in the kind of education that people are getting today. So Azalea and her sister Sarah left home and started looking for a place to go to school. Eventually, they made their way to Canada, and she was going to graduate. And she told me she was inspired and she wanted to give something back. But I was not quite ready to embrace the idea that she had about raising money. She said, I want to run across Canada to bring awareness to the needs of children in Afghanistan. All I could think of at the moment was organizational roadblocks I could put. I could only think of about an accident as she was running somewhere in the middle of Ontario. Nobody to follow her. There would be an accident, and what would happen to a better world? I would have to account for this. So I started setting up some roadblocks. While I was trying to do this in my own mind, I started thinking about another girl by the name Julie Anderson from Sylvan Lake, H.J. Cody School. In grade 10, she had come with her mother on a trip with me. And she had seen this school. She told me later. I didn't know much about it. But in grade 12, she had mobilized her entire school and raised $45,000 to transform this school that she had seen when she was in grade 10. Then they came to the grand opening and transformed that school into this, a group of young people from Sylvan Lake, Alberta. Connections is about the future of young people to make the world a better place. Julie is now at the University of Lethbridge. I was there 2 weeks ago. With the help of the president, she has launched another humanitarian cause, the Young People's Division of a Better World, to engage the youth. So when Azalea came back, I had removed as much of the roadblocks as possible, talked her out of running, but gave her some other ways to do it. This year in June, I was with Azalea and the Red Deer Advocate reporter Cameron Kennedy in Afghanistan. She opened her first school. She had seen the conditions of the school on a previous trip with me, and she was there cutting the ribbon with the Minister of Education and gave the gift of education to thousands of children, and she had raised $200,000. On Sunday, she's going back with the second $200,000 to live in Afghanistan and to make a difference while putting her interest in going to medical school on hold. Connecting to the youth of today will give us the future. The world would be a better place. If you're a parent, if you're an administrator, thinking about putting roadblocks, if you're a teacher, you have the perfect opportunity to mentor and allow the young people to connect to the world. I see Everett Tates here from a school. He has been doing that with some of his children. What is our role? We have a role. What can you do? You can at least talk to them and encourage them. Connect, see, do can be best described in this picture. There are some people walking across the river. This is how they would have to cross. I was there on a trip with Pat Romerman, who is actually here today. I didn't expect that he would be here. Group 2, he's from Group 2 Engineer and Architecture and Engineer. He was with me, has been with me on several trips. He saw the need. He connected with the people and literally connected the two communities by helping to build this bridge, using the talent and skill of local people with the expertise from Red Deer. If there were only 2 pictures I could show about the need to connect and see and do the one thing you could do, it will be these next 2 pictures. I was at an orphanage, and this is Dominique in the middle, and the physiotherapist who was with me said, Dominique could benefit from a surgery. He was not able to walk quite properly. He said we could take him for a surgery and he would come back, and within several months he would be able to walk. But she said it's important that we bring all the children together and tell the children that Dominique would be gone and that it would be necessary that they don't feel fearful as to what happened to Dominic. If a child goes out in an orphanage and you don't tell the rest of the children wonder, when would I be gone? What would happen to me? So we gathered all the children together, and with the help of a translator, she was telling the children, Dominic is going to go for surgery. He's going to come back with the cast. He's not going to be able to walk for some time. It was not even a few seconds. 2 kids rushed to him, and they carried him, and they were practicing how they would take him from place to place when he came back from surgery. It was a very powerful reminder to me that they didn't need an organization. They didn't need a committee to decide what to do. They didn't ask for a charitable receipt to do this. And the point is, they didn't understand surgery. They didn't understand physiotherapy. They simply looked at each other and said, we connect with Dominic. He has a need, and we will move him, and we will do the one thing that we could. My challenge to all of you today is, regardless of all the wonderful things we have heard, unless you can connect, unless you can see, unless you can do the one thing that you can do, the world will not be a better place. But if you do, the world and this community will be a much better place than it is today. Thank you very much.